Here are some facts you probably didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 7. If you ever have to eat crickets or similar insects, chew them. Do not swallow them alive. They have spines on their legs which can cling to your throat, blocking your airways, causing you to suffocate to death. If your water ever smells like cinnamon, do not drink it. People often use it to cover up the scent of poison. Everyone hates red eyes in photos, but if your pupils reflect white in a picture, it could be a sign that something is seriously wrong with your eyes, such as cataracts, retina problems, or even eye cancer. If there's ever a shirt or object on the windshield of your car, get in immediately without removing the object. This is a common method that kidnappers use to distract you from getting in your car. If you're ever scuba diving and a giant octopus tries to grab a hold of you, do not try to pry him off. The key to survival is to get him off of one of his anchor points like a rock or a pipe, because he can't pull you down without using the leverage from his anchor.
Psychology hacks you need to know. If someone is trying to make you decide something in a hurry, they're probably giving you a bad deal. Walk away. If someone's starting to have a panic attack, start breathing loudly and regularly. The person that is panicking will subconsciously start breathing with you. When someone in a group of people laughs, they tend to look at the person that they like the most. Nervousness and excitement have the same body reaction, so if you're nervous for a speech, try to convince yourself that you're actually excited. If you can get someone to contribute the idea, they are more likely to accept it. If you think someone is watching you, fake a yawn and then watch them. If you whisper to someone, it's likely that they'll whisper back, even when they have no reason to keep their voice down. Follow for more.
Weird Facts About the World, Part 1. It snows in the Sahara Desert. Coca-Cola does not exist in only 2 countries. Colombia's brightest rainbow is in a river. You're always 7 years behind Ethiopia.
Can someone please explain to me how a person can get stuck inside a turned-on walk-in oven? At around 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, police were called to this Walmart on Mumford Road in Halifax after a 19-year-old woman was found inside one of their walk-in ovens in the bakery section. Police say that the 19-year-old woman was already deceased when they arrived, and they're still investigating what happened. This Walmart has been closed since Saturday. I genuinely don't understand how someone can lock themselves inside a turned on oven. If you have experience working with these walk-in ovens, please let me know how it works, because I literally have no words.
Her son vanished and was found dead 6 years later. In a disturbing twist, police now believe she has been murdered. Lola Karabiva is a 61-year-old woman described by loved ones as beautiful, kind, an amazing woman and a true friend. She was originally from Uzbekistan and didn't actually have any other relatives in the US apart from her husband, 65-year-old Vladimir. She was last seen alive on October the 12th at her house in Philadelphia. She'd just come back from a trip to Europe, which she had been really looking forward to, and neighbors believe she'd been away for roughly 2 or 3 weeks. She was reported missing, and police immediately started looking into where the woman may be. The first port of call was her home, and after 2 unsuccessful searches, they finally had a breakthrough on the 3rd search. They made a horrifying discovery on the 16th of October. Her lifeless body was found wrapped in plastic and taped up in a wardrobe in her home. Police also discovered a dark stain on the floor, which they believe may have been blood. So what could the motive be for this horrific murder, and who could have committed it? Interestingly, police are looking into the possibility that an argument could have started between Vladimir and his wife. It's thought that this may have been around her late son. Now, the son disappeared back in 2004 and was then found dead 6 years later. He'd actually been out hiking and was tragically just 19 years old when he vanished. It's reported that the 12th of October would have been his birthday. Vladimir has been arrested and charged with abuse of a corpse, and although there's obviously suspicion surrounding him, he's not actually been charged with her murder as yet. Lola's cause of death is yet to be determined.
Stories that sound fake but are 100% true. In August 2010, a small passenger plane in the Democratic Republic of Congo is getting ready to take off. But just about 2 hours into their flight, tragedy struck. People living in a nearby town saw the plane plummet to the ground in a nosedive. There were 18 people aboard and only 1 survived the crash. Authorities couldn't determine what caused the plane to crash, The fuel tank was full and there wasn't anything wrong with the engine. But just 2 days after the crash took place, the lone survivor of the crash woke up from their coma and explained what happened. The man explained that towards the end of their flight, a flight attendant was checking in with the passengers when she suddenly freaked out and ran to the cockpit. The passengers on the plane began to look around to see what was wrong, and they immediately figured it out. Walking towards them from the back of the plane down the aisle was a live crocodile. Panicking, all of the passengers ran towards the front of the plane away from the animal. This caused a sudden shift of weight inside of the small plane, which led to them crashing. Don't bring crocodiles on planes.
Bizarre and impossible things to be done. How is this possible?
'Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you. Part 19. Oscar Wilde was once quoted saying that he was addicted to giving top and said that it greatly inspired him as a writer. The first ever pregnancy test involved injecting a woman's urine directly into a female frog's skin. And if the woman was pregnant, a few hours later, the frog would lay eggs. Paul Revere would ride from Boston to Newport to cheat on his wife. No, babe, the redcoats are actually coming this time. In 1955, the KGB tried to blackmail the president of Indonesia with video footage of him making love with a Russian woman disguised as a flight attendant. However, this backfired because the president did not care and requested the tape so he could flex on his friends back home. Giving someone the finger actually dates back 2,000 years, and it used to mean that you were threatening someone with sex. So while today it means f you, back then it meant I'm going to fuck you.
Here are some humans that have actual superpowers. So Stephen Wiltshire is an autistic artist who can draw an entire cityscape inclusive of all architectural details from his memory after only seeing it once. And speaking of superior memory, Rebecca Sharrock is a woman who can remember with fine detail every day of her entire life. Ben Underwood was a young boy who had sonar vision, meaning that he used echolocation like a bat to interact with the world around him, playing basketball and video games using only sound. Joe Cameron has a genetic mutation that doesn't allow her to feel any kind of pain, whether it's mental or physical, allowing her to burn herself on a stove for minutes at a time without realizing what's happening. Thai Nagak is an 80-year-old Vietnamese man who hasn't slept in 50 years after contracting a fever, and now he just works through the night without ever getting sleepy. Dean Karnazes is able to work past physical exhaustion and has once ran for 350 miles in a row without sleep for 3 days, and as a result, scientists have concluded that he could run until he died of old age. And finally, Wim Hof is able to withstand freezing temperatures and exposure to direct ice for periods of time that medical experts didn't believe were possible, like this 1.5-hour ice bath. Pretty cool, right?
Money facts that will blow your mind. Content creators on OnlyFans made more money than all of the NBA players combined. Corinna Kopf has made more in 3 years than Klay Thompson has in his recent 3-year NBA contract. If you've been subscribed to Netflix since 2007, you've paid them almost $2,000. If you had instead invested that $2,000 into Netflix back then, you would have over $350,000 today. Paul Walker secretly bought a $9,000 engagement ring for an Iraq veteran that he overheard in a jewelry store telling his soon-to-be wife that he wasn't going to be able to afford it. Disney spends $50 million a year on fireworks. That's over $130,000 a night. Amazon will lose over $1 billion a year if it went 1 second slower. These are the average retirement savings in the United States by age group. The average for under 35 is $50,000. Average by the time you're 65 is over $600,000. The New York Stock Exchange is owned by a company named Intercontinental Exchange, which has its stock listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
This is the age of consent in every country. So the highest age of consent goes to Bahrain at 21, followed by Nepal and South Korea at 20. India, Turkey, Vietnam, Argentina, and Egypt are some countries that place it right at 18, while Mexico, Ireland, and Cyprus have it marked at 17. A majority of countries have it at 16, including Canada, Russia, South Africa, Australia, Spain, Norway, and most of the United States. Inching a bit lower to 15, we have a lot of European countries, as well as Thailand, Costa Rica, and North Korea. 14 brings us to China, Bangladesh, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Brazil, and Colombia. 13 is actually the age of consent in Japan, Niger, and Burkina Faso. The Philippines and Angola have it set right at 12. And the lowest age of consent of them all is Nigeria at just 11 years old. But some countries like Yemen, Pakistan, and Iran, there's no age of consent and you just need to be married.
How old were you when you realized you've been drinking beer wrong your entire life? You were supposed to drink it warm. I know, I was shocked when I came to find this out. Warm, how warm? Well, turns out most formulations of beer recipes, they're made to be enjoyed at cellar temperature. What's cellar temperature? Between 50 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So, okay, not too cold, but not warm. Well, there's more. Prepare to be blown away. The best beer manufacturers will actually recommend that you drink their beer room temperature because their beer is so good that any temperature, really, you can enjoy it. But at room temperature, you really get the full flavor and notes of the beer. And then, here's the shocking one. The cold beer phenomenon, as in when everyone started chilling their beers to, 41 degrees, 40 degrees, that was because there was a lot of bad beer, and cold beer makes bad beer taste decent. I know. Do with that information as you see fit. And if you made it this far into the video, comment down, I love tacos! So I know that you made it to the end of the video.
Things humans weren't meant to see. Island of Tafiti. In real life.
Facts that will mess with your perception of time. Betty White is actually older than sliced bread. By the time women were allowed to vote in Switzerland, NASA had already been driving a buggy on the moon. Karl Marx, the creator of communism, wrote a letter to Abraham Lincoln congratulating him on his re-election. Oxford University existed for hundreds of years before the founding of the Aztec Empire. The fax machine was invented the same year the first wagon crossed the Oregon Trail. The Ottoman Empire still existed the second to last time the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. That means that Turkey was not founded as a country until 15 years later. Star Wars came out the same year that the last guillotine execution was used in France. Follow for more.
I'm Gonna Ruin Your Childhood Part 13. Carl died in the beginning of the movie Up, and Russell is his guardian angel, trying to help him cross into heaven. Maybe that's why he had dreams of all of his memories with his wife. But what if Russell isn't just any guardian angel? What if he's Carl and Ellie's miscarried kid? Russell wasn't trying to earn a badge, he was trying to earn his wings.
Please, I need your help. Can anybody tell me the name of this movie?
I see you.
Sister, may we help you?
You just lost the element of surprise, demon.
Sister, this is a pre-trial hearing. We're going to have to ask you to sit down. Officer.
I'm fine, Your Honor. No recess needed.
He's the evil coming to New York.
Let me adjust the microphone for you. Doctor. How's that?
Mandela effects that will alter your perception of reality, Part 1. Many iPhone users recall there being a robber emoji with a beanie, a black and white striped shirt, and a money bag thrown over his shoulder. However, this emoji never existed. In Star Wars Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader does not say the words, "Luke, I am your father." He actually says this.
No, I am your father.
There was never a Disney intro where Tinkerbell dotted the I in Disney with her wand. Curious George does not have a tail. He never did. And Pikachu never had a black tip at the end of his. The Fruit of the Loom logo does not have a cornucopia. And if you look at the logo's 130-year history, not once did it have a cornucopia in it. And contrary to popular belief, I was never verified on TikTok. But drop a follow and maybe this one will become a reality.
This former Teen Mom star is a pedophile who repeatedly downloaded CP materials on her cell phone. Meet Lori Wickelhaus, who was a star on the TV show Teen Mom when she was only 17. While Lori appeared on the MTV show Teen Mom, she was actually videotaped giving her son up for adoption. And thank God she got that child out of her hands, because later on in life she would be arrested for some extremely disturbing things. So on August 13th, 2020, a 20-count indictment was handed down to Lori, and it was an arrest warrant. Apparently, according to the police report, child sex abuse material had been found on Lori's phone and her computer. Apparently, the Kentucky State Police Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force received a report from an anonymous person about what Lori was doing online. Apparently, for some reason, she had uploaded child sex abuse material to a Dropbox account that was traced to her. This story goes to show that it's not always men that can be pedophiles, it can be women too. So after the trial, Lori was found guilty and she was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for the possession of CP. But she seems to be smugly smiling in prison and doesn't seem to care about the children that she hurt in doing these horrific things. And even on the day of her sentencing for her sex crimes, Lori was placed in jail again for holding the court in contempt. So she hasn't exactly been a model prisoner, but thankfully she is still in prison. And once again, I'm just so glad that she ended up giving her baby up for adoption.
Carlos Rodriguez right here killed Zoe Campos right here because he was hallucinating and thought that she was a demon. He even sent a handwritten letter to detail the killing in 2013 and why he did it. He admitted that he was wrong and he wanted everyone to know the truth 5 to 6 years later. He stated he's not a murderer, he just committed a reckless act. That reckless act happened to be murder though. He said he was hallucinating after smoking some sort of synthetic marijuana. He started losing track of time and hallucinating, seeing Zoe as a demon. Fast forward 5 years after that incident, in 2018 and early 2019, that's when her skeletal remains were found. He also stated in his letter, as soon as she started to laugh, he heard a demonic scream and her face started to melt, according to him. That's when he snapped and started choking her, or what he thought was a demon at least. He claimed he wasn't in the right state of mind, however, he knew he was wrong in this instance. Now, Carlos ended up pleading guilty on August 15th of 2022. Because of the actions and the murder, he is facing life in prison for this. There's no way around this. Let me know your thoughts about this case in the comment section below, guys. This is a good one. Let's talk about Wrinkles the clown. Wrinkles is a clown based in Florida, and you can hire him to scare your misbehaving children. And there's even still an active phone number you can call, and you'll get sent to his voicemail to leave a request. The problem arose when he started showing up randomly all across Florida. Kids were reporting a clown would follow them home, even at night. There are several videos of people seeing Wrinkles the clown outside of their house staring at them through the window. And there are also reports of him being on playgrounds waiting for children. This was all just so he could scare them. They even made a whole movie based on this clown because it was so terrifying. Let me know what you guys think about Wrinkles the clown in the comment section.
Here's something no one's talking about. Trees and land absorbed almost no CO2 last year. And the consequences of that is not just devastating, but it's something most scientists haven't even factored in to their climate models. I mean, just look at what's happening in Finland. You see, humans emit a bunch of carbon into the atmosphere each year, but thankfully about half of all of our emissions is absorbed by the planet's oceans, forests, soils, and other natural carbon sinks. And carbon sinks being a phrase that scientists use to describe something that absorbs more carbon than it releases. But shockingly, this preprint study found that in 2023, Earth's land as a CO2 sink almost dropped to a net zero, the lowest it's been in over 2 decades. And it also showed that because of that drop, and we'll get into the reasons why, the ocean actually increased in CO2 absorption to compensate. And while that absorption plays a critical role, it also presents several dangers, one of which we just saw with Hurricane Helene and Milton, because the more carbon the ocean absorbs, the warmer they become, which then contributes to more and more extreme weather events. And what's happening in Finland is one of the craziest examples of this. WStub. They have one of the most ambitious net zero targets in the world, with aims to reach that target roughly 15 years ahead of other European countries. But despite cutting emissions by a massive 43% across all other sectors, because the amount of CO2 that their forests absorb in particular has declined by a staggering 90% from 2009 to 2022, Finland's net emissions are about the same levels as they were in the 1990s. It's as if nothing happened for 30 years. And this paper cited similar declines in regions around the world like Europe, North America, and Southeast Asia, but most severely affected the Amazon rainforest. Shockingly, a severe drought towards the end half of 2023 caused the region to switch from being a carbon sink to becoming a net carbon source. Now honestly, the truth as to why this is happening is not fully understood, but 2023 was the hottest year on record, and researchers at least currently believe that these declines are primarily attributed to droughts, wildfires, and heat waves. Hopefully what happened in 2023 could be temporary and we could see a bounce back, and they say it is critical we do, because any hope of reaching net zero is impossible without nature.
This is the library room in the Conjuring house. It actually used to be Roger Perrin's bedroom, the father of the Perrin family, and he supposedly suffered multiple demonic attacks and even saw the ghost of the witch Bathsheba in this room. The current owners of the home have also seen this book fly off the shelf.
This is Yo Quiero Agua, one of the creepiest execution videos in the world, explained.
The video that I'm about to explain is about 30 seconds long, and it's the creepiest and one of the most disturbing videos out there. And whatever you do, don't go searching for it. The video begins with a suspected cartel member with his face completely flayed and skinned, and he is still alive. Now, you don't see this happening, but you do see the aftermath. All of the skin on his face has been completely removed. Nothing that resembles facial features are there anymore. No skin, no lips, no eyelids, absolutely nothing. This video almost doesn't look real, but it has been confirmed to be 100% real. It almost looks like and feels like an 80s slasher film. Throughout the video, it's just his captors mocking him and having a good time enjoying the pain they inflicted on him. They ask him questions throughout the video like, "Do you want water?" which the victim replies, "Yo quiero agua," which means "I want water." The captors continue to just mock and mess with the victim throughout the whole video. It also looks like they skinned some of his chest off too, which I can't even imagine the pain. Now, the video is gory and hard to watch, but that's not really what makes this video disturbing. The video is just honestly extremely creepy. For example, how the guy looks after his face was skinned. The best way I could describe it is that his face was stuck in a constant grin, but he has no face. It's almost like they cut off his face in a way to make him smile permanently. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's an extremely messed up visual. Also, the way the victim sounds while he's talking to his captors is also extremely disturbing. His voice is just so raspy and it almost sounds demonic and not human at all. Now, we all know the video Funky Town, and people who saw Funky Town compare this video to it all the time. Now, it's not Funky Town disturbing, but it is extremely disturbing. All in all, it isn't a pleasant video to look at or watch, and I urge you to never ever go searching for it.
These girls went hiking in Panama, disappeared, and left behind their camera with disturbing photos. Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon were students from the Netherlands, and they spent about 6 months planning their trip to Panama that was supposed to serve as part vacation and part service trip. They planned on spending some time hiking, touring, volunteering with local children, teaching arts and crafts, and learning Spanish. Lisanne and Chris had been hiking around the Panamanian jungle for the last 2 weeks as part of a backpacking mission trip. They intended to stay for the next 4 weeks with a host family to volunteer at a local school. However, when they waved goodbye to their host family at 11 a.m. on April 1st, they were never seen again. The girls had wrote on a Facebook post that they were going to tour a local village and they were having brunch with 2 Dutchmen before embarking on their hiking journey. On the night of April 1st, the host family noticed that there was something wrong. Their dog had returned safe and sound, but the girls were nowhere to be found. The host family looked around the area of their home but decided to wait till the morning to alert authorities. The next morning, Lisanne and Chris missed an appointment with a local tour guide, and this prompted the host family to alert the authorities. By April 6th, the girls were still missing, and their families ended up flying to Panama, bringing detectives with them from the Netherlands. Along with local police and dog units, they searched the forest for 10 days. Days turned into weeks, and after 10 weeks, there was still no sign of Lisanne or Chris. As police were slowing their search efforts, a woman turned in a blue backpack to authorities, claiming to have found it near the banks of the river. Inside of the backpack, they found 2 sunglasses, 2 bras, a water bottle, $83, and Lisanne's passport. Also inside, most importantly, they found Lisanne's camera and both of their cell phones. Police immediately began investigating the camera and cell phones and came up with some disturbing evidence. The phones had remained in service about 10 days after the girls had gone missing. As they were looking at the phones, there was about 77 separate times they tried to call the police, and with these call logs, they were able to come up with a time frame of how long these girls were in the forest. It seemed like all of these calls were not going through since they were in the forest, but only one of them went through, but after 2 seconds, it disconnected. As police were looking at the camera, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The first photo was of Lisanne and Chris as they were starting their hike for the day. But as the photos progressed, it became more worrisome. There was a photo taken on April 8th between 1 to 4 a.m., and it was showing the girls' belongings spread out on a rock. There was plastic bags, candy wrappers, and most importantly, there was a photo of the back of Chris's head, and there was blood leaking from her temple. Police were investigating where the backpack was found, and they discovered Chris's clothes neatly folded near the edge of the river. About 2 months later, in that same area, a pelvic bone and a foot were found in a boot. And soon after that, the bones of the 2 girls were discovered. As investigators were looking at the bones, they were looking at Lisanne's bone, and it looked like they had decomposed naturally. There was still some flesh attached to them, but for Chris's bones, they looked stark white as if they had been bleached. Police questioned the locals, tour guides, and hikers in that area, but no one seemed to know what had happened to those girls, and there was not enough evidence to determine the cause of death. To this day, the disappearance and deaths of Lisanne and Chris remain a mystery.